Big Brother fans, look at who it is. It is Kenny, the third person evicted from the Big Brother house season 26. Kenny, how are you?
I'm doing great. I'm home with my family. We had a nice little vacation after being evicted and getting back to work hopefully this week and continuing on with life is as normal as I could possibly do after this.
All right, we're going to get into detail about that and also your time in the house. But first of all, everyone, welcome to One on One on God 101. I always say, but first, God. So we're going to start out there. Are you a man of faith, Kenny?
I believe faith is very important in our family. Our kids attend Christian school. My wife takes our kids to church on a regular basis, and I think it's very important. So yes.
Now, you and your wife, Renee, have 4 kids. Your stepson, who's 35, you started raising when he was 3. Help raise him. Daughter, 28, yeah?
She's 30 now.
She's 30 now. Okay, and then you have a 4 and 6-year-old? No, they must be a little older now.
6 and 8.
Oh, 6 and 8. Okay. Wow. All right. My math is a little fuzzy. You spent less than a month in the house, about over 2 weeks. When did you start missing your family, wife and family, and think, I don't know if I can handle this?
Yeah, I mean, it was even prior to getting in the house. Obviously, there's a period of time before you go in the house that you don't really get to talk to your family, and it happened so quickly. Obviously, as the fans know, this isn't something that's planned months and months in advance. It happens quick. You end up in the Big Brother house before you know it, and I mean, obviously, my family's super close. I've always made it a point to make sure that I'm involved in my kids, every aspect of their life, whether it's school, sports. I was a young parent with my older kids, and I missed out on a lot of those opportunities. So when you're sitting there with a lot of thoughts, those things come up. Like, what are my kids doing? What is my wife doing right now? So I always had those thoughts, regardless. Even when I go to work sometimes or go away for work for a couple of days, I always have those thoughts. So they do creep up, and it was tough at times.
Let's talk about work, because you went into the house saying, I'm not going to tell them my real profession. I'm going to pretend I'm a food truck guy. But then once you found out Matt's dad was in the military and that Cedric was a former U.S. Marine, you came clean to them. For the record, tell everyone your background, your real professional background.
Yeah, I've been a police officer for almost 30 years now. I spent 22 years working undercover narcotics for the DEA. And that's pretty much been my life for the last 30 years.
Now, what led you into that? Because you're the youngest of 3 boys.
Youngest of 3. I had an older brother, 6 years older, an older sister, 4 years older. Ever since I was a kid, my oldest brother struggled with addiction. I kind of watched that as a young kid growing up, seeing what it did to my family and my parents. And I think eventually I always wanted to be a police officer. And once I got into being a police officer, the goal was to get into narcotics and try and make a difference in the world as far as like people who are addicted to drugs and people who are selling drugs.
Busting down doors and arresting drug dealers. Got to get the drug dealers. Am I right?
Yeah, that was a small. Actually, a lot of people don't realize that that's only a really small portion of what we do as far as like kicking in doors. There's a lot goes into before you go into someone's house to try and find the drugs and make arrests. But my biggest goal in my life as a narcotics officer was to help out the families of people who are addicted to drugs, because they're often forgot about. We don't realize, like, especially as police officers, we don't realize like what the impact is of like younger siblings or grandparents or parents of people who are related to somebody that's addicted to drugs. And that was always my goal, to try and make it easier for them.
I love that. That's beautiful, Kenny.
Yeah.
You also were in the U.S. Air Force, and you've served in Afghanistan. What was that like?
Yeah, I mean, Afghanistan was pretty interesting. It was hot, but I have already made a couple of comparisons in the house and outside of the house that being deployed was, with the exception of being like shot at and things like that, but Big Brother house was very difficult to be completely secluded. This day and age, we have Skype, we have Zoom, we have cell phones, internet. You can keep in contact with your family and know what's going on. In the Big Brother house, you couldn't do that, so it made it more difficult. And I'm always been a person who wants to do for others. And serving in the military was one of those things where I love my country and I love my family, and I thought that would be a great way to serve.
Let me see if I'm hearing you correctly. Is that your way of saying Big Brother was tougher than being in Afghanistan?
Yeah, that was pretty tough. That was pretty tough being completely secluded. Although I had great house guests that were very comforting and very good human beings who made it a little better when you don't have the one that you usually lean on. And my wife for the last probably 15 years has been like my best friend and someone that I could lean on for absolutely everything. So it was tough not having that, but I had some good people in the house.
I want to talk about how you and your wife, Renee, became husband and wife. Like, I have this saying, I love saying, Big Brother has actually had more successful marriages than The Bachelor. Explain to everyone how Big Brother, years ago, before you even thought about becoming a house guest, how Big Brother helped you get married.
Yeah, obviously, me and my wife who were friends and partners. Actually, we were working narcotics together and actually teaming up and buying drugs together, which is kind of crazy. But got obviously really close with her as a friend. Started to really like her a little bit more, and she would always come to work and talk about her friends going over the house the night before to watch Big Brother. And I knew about Big Brother and I had watched episodes here and there, but I never really got into it. But I knew that if I wanted to engage in more conversations other than work related conversations, I had to get involved in Big Brother. So I took a vested interest in Big Brother and used that to engage in multiple conversations with my now wife. And so Big Brother was a big part of us breaking that work personal relationship and making it more personal.
You spent about 5 years trying to become a house guest. And when you finally got picked and you made it, what did your wife say?
She was excited for me. She knew that it was something that I wanted to do. But she was skeptical. She didn't know if I was going to be able to get in there and do what I do, in the undercover world. She had a lot of good ideas on what I should do and what I shouldn't do. Some of them
Like
I took.
what? Like
Well,
what?
she didn't. She definitely. I actually toyed with the idea of actually coming right out and telling people I was a police officer, and she wouldn't let me do that. She said absolutely not. She didn't want me to win the first HOH. I tried very hard to win the first HOH, but I think that came along with the Ainsley twist and having to nominate 3 different people and then possibly a 4th. So I thought it'd be important to try and get that connection with the house guests by winning the first HOH first. But she said she screamed at the TV a lot while I was, in the house. And but at the end of the day, I did the best I could under the circumstances. And she's still not letting me forget that I didn't. I had a good opportunity, I guess, with T-Core one morning over coffee, and my wife keeps bringing it up that T-Core wanted to work with you. You just needed to have a little more game talk, and I didn't see that at that time.
All right. So we've established Big Brother helped you marry and deepen your connection with Renee. You spent 5 years trying to get on the show. You finally get on the show. Your wife gives you advice. Granted, she didn't know about the Ainsley twist either. You make it in the house and you start telling your housemates, I really miss my wife and kids. I don't really care if I get evicted. You were going back and forth. You lasted 2.5 weeks. What was the first thing your wife, Renee, said to you after you left the house?
I love you. You played a terrible game.
Is she, in your opinion, is she right?
Oh, she's absolutely right. She's absolutely right. I went in there with a plan to try and reset every week and try and figure out what was going on in the house, and it made it difficult. I will say, being on the block the first week really threw me for a loop. When I tried to make a deal with Angela and Leah just before I rolled my last disc for the HOH, and I thought they kind of took it. Leah definitely took it, but Angela was kind of skeptical. So I was really shocked when I ended up on the block the first week, and that made it very difficult for me to really get into the social portion of the game where I needed to build alliances, because as people know that have played this game before or watch this game, if you're on the block the first week, no one really wants to, commit to you because you might be gone in a week, and they're going to, go to other members of the house to try and, build those stronger connections. So that was probably the toughest part of. I'd never really hit the reset after week 1, and I felt comfortable on the block.
Did any of your kids give you an assessment of how they think you did in the house?
My 30-year-old daughter, she was pretty critical of my gameplay, which I understand. My 8-year-old daughter, I was told, she was super upset that I went. She was begging for me to go home week one, and she cried when I stayed in the house after week one. But then she also cried when I got evicted and said that she wanted me to stay. So at 8, she wasn't too sure if she wanted me to stay or go. But at the end of the day, it was a great experience, and my kids loved every minute of it. And I wouldn't change it.
I'm thinking the apple doesn't fall far from the tree with your 8-year-old. Couldn't decide. Do I want dad to come home? Do I want him? All right. In the final minutes, who are you rooting for? And who do you think has what it takes to win the whole thing?
Yeah, I mean, it's really anybody's game, I think, at this point. Obviously, I'm rooting for Tucker. He's a hometown boy. We had a good connection. We had the Shake 'em Up crew that lasted about 26 hours or so until he blew everything up. But yeah, if it stays the way that it does, I think the Ainsley, in the AI arena, I think Tucker's got a huge chance to make a run. If something does change down the road and they can backdoor him, I think the house will try and backdoor him because he is such a comp beast. But I like his play to be, get things going in the house, make the game as exciting as possible. And I think he's doing that. And so I'm rooting for Tucker to do that. I think T-Core's, hiding in the weeds. I think there's a lot more to T-Core than the, fans at home will see. So I'm kind of rooting for T-Core. And then Leah and Mackenzie were both super kind to me during the entire time I was in the house. Really good people. I'd like to see them succeed.
Now that you know what it's like, would you ever do it again?
I don't know. The Big Brother house, I couldn't do it again. I mean, I don't think they'd be taking 70-year-olds when my kids are, out of high school or whatever. But it's super difficult. If it was 5 years ago when I first tried for it and my kids were young and they didn't quite understand me being gone and me not missing as much as I was missing, it might have been a little bit of a different game for me. But I don't know if I could get back in the house. That was a pretty tough thing. But I did meet some amazing people, and that I'm very grateful for.
What are your last thoughts? You're going back to work when? Or did your coworkers give you any feedback about how you did?
Yeah, some of them were give me some. My closest friends were they were yelling at the TV also and telling me to snap out of it, and they wanted to see the real Kenny in the house. But the real Kenny had a hard time kind of in the house because I do have a profession, a very honorable profession, I believe, and I wanted to make sure that I didn't say anything or do anything that would have been misunderstood. So I did kind of walk on eggshells and listen to the conversations of the younger people in the house. Sometimes they got inappropriate. And I wanted to make sure that, I was the person that was just kind of listening and I didn't want to, say something that would be misunderstood. So that was kind of difficult. So my friends could definitely understand that from my perspective on why I wasn't as social as I probably should have been in the house. And then a lot of them claim that they didn't watch it, but now I've been hearing that the live feeds were on in the station 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They were all trying to figure out what I was doing. So some of them, wouldn't own up to it, but I know everybody was kind of listening and watching and trying to see what I was doing next.
Kenny Kelly, keep doing God's work in helping people struggling with addiction and helping get drugs off the streets and out of the hands of kids, people, everyone. I wish you Godspeed and God bless you, Kenny.
God bless you, Julie. I appreciate everything you've done for me as far as like get my name out there and doing good things in the house. And God bless you.
I'll see you on finale night.
Thank you. Have a great night.